Hi everyone and welcome to this review from Board Game Aids. My name is Martin. Today I just wanted to do a very quick review for you of an excellent little two-player game called the Pyramiden des Jaguar, which is a great two-player game from Kosmos. Just note online there's not very much information about this game or review, so I thought I'd put one together for you to help you make a decision whether this is a game you want to play and a game you're going to enjoy. So I'm going to take you through a few different things. First we'll have a look at the components of the game, then I'll give you a brief overview of the gameplay, and then finally just some final thoughts on the game, see if it's something you might want to pick up. So let's make a start. Okay, so let's take a first look at what we get in the box. So this is the typical small box Kosmos type game, which fits nice into collection, doesn't take up too much space. So let's just open the box. So first of all, we've got the instruction book here. These instructions are actually in German, but it's very easy online to find the English instructions. It's not a hugely complicated game either, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with an English translation of the rules. We then have a game board, which I'll open in its full glory a bit later. We then have what's probably the core of the game, which is 40 cards here, which are numbered from 1 to 40. And on each card, as you can probably see, there's a little circle with the face of a Jaguar in the middle of it there. So these are really central to the game, and we'll see how the game plays in a minute. In addition, we've then got 10 Jaguar stones. Again, you can probably see this little gold image of a Jaguar on the top there, pretty nice. And finally, we've got our two intrepid explorers, Explorer A and Explorer B. There's not really much more you can say about them, they're pretty nondescript, but nice little game pieces there. So that's the contents of the game. Nice picture of the Jaguar at the bottom there. So here's the game set up all ready to start. At the beginning of the game, each player is dealt 15 of the Jaguar cards we saw earlier, which they keep secret, and they place their Explorer at the start of the jungle track here. And the idea of the game is that to move your Explorer as far forward as you can, and the further forward you get, the greater chance you're going to win the game after winning that particular round. The game's played over a number of rounds. So the main way you move forward is to fill up your pyramid here. There are two pyramids, one faces the other player obviously. Now, each game turn, you're going to play two cards. So for example, I might play a 2 and a 31. Now, one of those, first thing that happens is your opponent will get the chance to pick one of those cards and place it into his pyramid. In fact, he has to do that. So he might pick the 2, for example. That means that you're then left with the other card, which in this case would be the 31. Now, some important rules here about how you place cards into your pyramid. If you look at my pyramid here at the bottom right, the cards have to go from incrementing value, going from left to right. So, for example, I could put a number 8 or 9 or anything between those two values, between the 7 and 12, but I couldn't put, for example, number 22 there because it doesn't increase the values there. Likewise, I could put my number 19 there. It would also go there as well, but I obviously couldn't put it there. And the values have to increase from going from one stage to the next. So for example, this is a 13 here, this would have to be a 14 or higher, and still less than the card there. And the player wins the round if they manage to place all cards on all spaces of their pyramid, which gets quite difficult as we'll see in a second. At the beginning, obviously that's quite easy, so if I'd offered these two cards here, and I get to keep the 19, so the opponent takes the 22, place it in their pyramid, I take the 19. At the start that's fairly easy to put in a space here, but as the game goes on it's going to get more difficult, and I'm going to find that I can't place a card onto my pyramid following the placement rules. So for example, as the pyramid fills up, just for an example, let's just put some cards here. That one won't go there, but let's just find a better card. So let's just swap that one with that one. So in this case, this is probably a very bad example, but if we had the number 25 that I was left with, there's no room here for me to place this card now. In that case, what I need to do is place it over an existing card. So in this case, I'd probably be forced to place it over either over the 23 or over the 31 here. If I do that, I then take one of the Jaguar stones which I saw earlier, which are these little black things here, and I need to put one of those on the top there. That means that I now can't place any more cards over that card. So if the same thing happened again, and I had another card which had to go in that position, I can't put that card on top of that one, and actually I would lose that round. And that's one of the ways you lose a round, is if you're left with no options and can't place a card on your pyramid. In this case as well, the opponent gets a bonus. If they manage to trap you so you have to place a card and put a Jaguar stone, they get to move one space forward. So that's also one of the ways you can score. So play continues like this, both players playing 2 cards. Your opponent gets to choose first, and then you're left with the card that's remaining, which you have to place in your pyramid. If a player manages to get their pyramid completed, that round ends, and they would move 5 spaces forward on the victory track, on the jungle path here. At the end of the round, what happens is a card is drawn from the top of the leftover cards, jungle cards. If the value on that card is less than the space you've reached, then you've won the game. So in this case, a 5 would be a good result. It's less than the number 10 that I'm on here, so that means that the grey player has won the game. If it had been higher, you play another round, so you take the cards off and start from the beginning again. So pretty simple game rule-wise, plays very nicely. On your turn, basically, you're just offering up 2 cards, you play one, and you give one to your opponent. There are some little things here which make it more interesting on the jungle track. Some of these spaces have actions on them which can help you or hinder your opponent. For example, there are ones that let you discard cards from their pyramid. There's an action that lets you take a card off that has a Jaguar stone on it. And there's other nasty things like discarding a card from a player's hand, which can just make it a little bit more difficult for them. So that's a very, very brief review of the Pyramiden Jaguar. So what do I think of the game? I think it's a very, very good 2-player game. One of the better 2-player games I've played, certainly one of the better Kosmos games. I actually come to prefer this to Lost Cities, which was up to now one of my favourite games. It plays very well. The choices you have are very simple, so you offer 2 cards, your opponent will take 1. But the amount of depth that creates is pretty interesting, so you can work out a lot, for example, which card the person takes, and also where they place it in their pyramid. So if they place a 19, perhaps somebody at the top, that would probably mean they don't have that many high cards and that most of the cards in their hand are the low cards. So you can start to work out what cards they've got there. It's also quite fun trying to screw over your opponent, forcing them to take a card that you know they can't place. And there's some very interesting mind games that go on around sort of playing cards that you know, if they take one, that's going to screw you up, and vice versa. So there's some very nice depth to the gameplay there. Some people have commented, and I kind of agree, that the action spaces, which you can't really see here, but just open that up. The action spaces on the board perhaps aren't necessary to the gameplay, and it's upside down. Aren't necessary, but they can easily be left out if you don't want to play with those. Give them a go. They do make the game a little bit more random, so obviously where you land depends on what action you can do. So, but easily stripped out of the game if you'd rather play without that. But overall, great little game. A little bit hard to find sometimes. You might have to search online for it, but if you can pick it up, do. And I think you enjoy exploring the jungle.